If you don't own a gun, you don't get to make decisions about gun laws.
That's how abortions work.
I just said I don't like women with my complexion. I like light-skinned women.
Now, I love Kendrick. One thing I cannot stand is fake deepness. I come to watch the Super Bowl to watch a performance. I didn't come to think. I don't want...
break up families. Guns are bad. Men are bad.
I don't give two shits that families are being separated if somebody's getting deported. I actually find it hilarious. It gives me a great deal of comfort.
Are always telling men that we don't want girlfriends. We want moms. When we ask you to do basic women-like things for us.
You know, you'd think these videos are like 10 years ago, but no, they are this year, in the year of our Lord 2025. Hi, love. So I don't know if it's just me, but in recent years, there has been a noticeable shift, especially among Gen Z, on how they interact with social activism. Nope, I meant to say social justice and activism and general internet discourse. While we were a generation that was celebrated, well, by ourselves for being outspoken and being quote unquote woke, more like the progressive generation that's gonna save the planet. Gen Z is now moving away from those type of beliefs and going more into the conservative side.
Gen Z men are more conservative than millennial men are. So let's talk about it. I wrote a Substack that's called Gen Z Gov, focusing on government and politics. The piece that I wrote this week, I focused on Gen Z men and seeing what roles social media algorithms played in making men much more conservative than their millennial peers. I'm not on the side of the internet where I'm getting content from men made for men, and so I'm kind of unaware of what that content is and kind of how it is radicalizing young men. So you can read the full piece of my Substack. I'm just giving you the highlights here. From the exit polls in the 2024 election, 4 in 10 Gen Z men voted for Trump. Based on that data, based on that conservative shift of young men, I wanted to look at the role of social media algorithms and see how algorithms kind of shaped that election result and if there was a huge definitive role. I've seen plenty of young men come on TikTok and say from their personal experience that if you as a man have any sort of hobby in something like weightlifting, gaming, you will soon be fed right-wing bro motivational content. Start off as very vague gestures of discipline or maybe give you some slight financial advice, but then you'll start to hear these right-wing talking points. The reason this content is so successful in changing the minds of young men is because the content doesn't seem super politically charged. It seems like an older brother looking out for their best interests. The right-wing podcast bros, and I'm sure you've seen TikToks in this like post-election discourse about their role in the election results, are very successful because they've hit this nerve that a lot of young men feel. You know, most Gen Z voters don't have fully formed political ideologies yet, so the right-wing ecosystem online steps in as a way to help young men make sense of the world. One key talking point you will hear in these right-wing podcasts is this distrust of authority, and Trump sort of plays into that really well. So if you're starting to hear that the government is corrupt and women are taking over and migrants are coming in, then you hear a figure like Trump, it makes obvious sense how someone's going to go from listening to a right-wing bro motivational podcast that doesn't seem that political to then supporting Trump. I did a lot of research into social media algorithms, so I looked at YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram, primarily TikTok and YouTube. Data in my piece overwhelmingly shows that YouTube and TikTok's recommendations and algorithms lead young men to see conspiracy theory videos. Recommendations do differ depending on age and gender, so young men are getting specifically violent conspiratorial content on their social media algorithm. 4 in 10 young people get their news from social media, particularly TikTok, so it's really naive to think that social media doesn't play a role in not only shaping the ideologies of young men, but definitively our election results. In the piece, I also touch on the male loneliness epidemic. I think it needs a lot of revisions for how you see it covered by journalists. Gen Z is lonely and suffers from mental health issues. The decline of third spaces, less economic prosperity for Gen Z compared to boomers, and comparison in social media has left an entire generation feeling more isolated than ever. Regardless of gender, Gen Z does experience economic anxiety. None of us can afford homes, save for our futures, and afford a quality of life that our parents did. We have very real concerns and feelings about the world that we were given, and it's created this widespread distrust of institutions, politicians, and government. I feel like that's across the board with Gen Z. Many people would say that this male loneliness epidemic kind of created a path for Trump's victory. I've noticed that the way journalists cover the loneliness felt by young men in America often normalizes violent and misogynistic attitudes towards women. Yes, the stats show that young men are not doing well when you look at economic prosperity, when you look at suicide rates, when you look at addiction rates. You know, there's a lot of anxiety felt by men, but my point here when we talk about the male loneliness epidemic is that it's not to normalize men going to support Trump. Because men feel lonely and kind of they don't trust the state of the world doesn't mean that we should normalize them supporting a fascist, racist, sexist character like Trump. Once again, you can read the full piece on my Substack that talks about all these subjects, you know, the male loneliness epidemic, it talks about right-wing radicalization, the Bro podcast, how algorithms work. But the final question that I sort of posed to all of my readers at the end of the piece was just thinking about media and was thinking about information. If you are a left-wing organizer or if you are a political candidate right now, how are you going to message to, let's say, these Gen Z young men? How are you going to talk to them, you know, when they don't even believe the basic factual reality that you live in? Trump has played a huge role in this with his distrust of media and saying that's fake news and it's woke media, whatever the fuck. This is a genuine question that I think is a huge challenge that we've never experienced in our politics. But how are we all going to talk to people that don't even believe in the same reality, don't believe in the same facts? You know, you used to watch cable news, like my parents would say, there was only 3 news stations. Now everyone lives in their own bubble. When I was researching this piece, I had no fucking idea what was happening for the right-wing bro podcast world, just as they don't know what's happening over in my lefty, girly, hippie bubble over here. Gen Z Gov, link in bio. Let me know what you want to read in the next edition.
I mean, I saw my mutuals. I don't think they know I really exist. But anyway, a couple of YouTubers that I follow make videos about, you know, cottagecore, the rise of it, you know, Nora Smith, you know, how all of that type of, you know, traditional lifestyle is kind of a pipeline to the alt-right. And I was like, y'all always do this with your think pieces, okay? It's reaching, but turns out they were right, okay? I mean, I'm not just talking surface level. I mean, there are people who are educated, people who have sense that are now making content or making rhetorics or internet think pieces in support of the more not so POC friendly, LGBTQ friendly, basically all the isms, right? And you would sit there and think, oh my gosh, they're gonna eat them up in the comments. But no, it's usually in support of it. Like 90% of the comments are in support of it. There's so many times where I've thought I'm on the wrong For You page because I'm just so outraged. I mean, people are doing blackface and nobody's saying anything about it. And if you're the one person that says something, everyone be like, you take things too deep, it's just makeup. Like clearly that person, okay, we're not talking about blackface. Okay, let's stick to the video, Tanya. But anyway, I think this new shift, sort of heavily recognizable online, but in real life, things have never really changed to a great extent. Like still like a huge part of the world has more conservative views if we really think about it. Like the traditional gender roles, the career, everything to do with life, it's still pretty much conservative, especially within African communities, Muslim communities, you know, religions, all that kind of stuff. It's still embedded in that. But because of the internet and us just being exposed to what we like, what we already like, I already talked about this. Go check out this video about algorithms, okay? But anyway, how they make you think that the world has changed because everything that you watch is catered to you. So you have this disorientated view of the world, which makes you feel like everything is fine or everything is on fire, where like in reality is like the complete opposite. So because a whole lot of people that make content have more like left type views. So, and we also follow people that have the same type views, which makes us think that, okay, the world is at a better stage. But now there's just an overwhelming number of Gen Zers just kind of like being like, you know what, I actually don't care. I'm just going to say the N-word. Like, who cares? So it's kind of like making us feel like, oh my gosh, we're going back to the 1950s, where it's like, well, it's like that in like the next continent. It's still like the 1950s, really. Now I lost my train of thought. There was something that I wanted to say and I should stick to the notes, okay? Stick to the notes. I wanted to say that the rise of content creators or people that have personalities online and the rise of people also being aware of content creation and the behind the scenes and how much money people make has also contributed to this more right-wing ideologies that are coming up. The red pill, you know, I don't even know their names because I couldn't care. Why am I saying this? Because YouTube pays, TikTok pays, like almost every platform pays. And for a certain moment since 2020, everybody has been on their woke game. Remember when people were posting their black square, you know, everybody did that, right?
I might not be the same, but that's not important. No freedom till we're equal. Damn right I support it.
And because, you know, whenever everything becomes so mainstream, everyone agrees, things become quote unquote boring. So therefore the rise of think pieces as well to kind of stir up the pot, you know, but not really, but like, you know, content that's, you know, shock value, right? That gets people, you know, the most engagement, which again totals to more money. So as more people have gotten that idea, the more controversial you are, the better, you know, the better chances of getting money and getting rich and, you know, getting a following. Like, it's no longer popular to say the right thing, especially with like sensitive topics like such as abortion, people living with disabilities, or immigration, things like that 2 years ago was so common sense to be like on this side because it's logical, you know. Now saying, you know, oh yeah, everybody deserves this and this and that, immigrants aren't the reason you don't have a job, it's the government, like all those things, they don't get the people rifled up, okay? But saying immigrants are the reasons why we don't have jobs, see, that's gonna get you clicks, that's gonna get you something, right? Because that is the mentality that a whole lot of Gen Zers are having nowadays with regards to creating content, etc. And, you know, in America, I would say voting for Trump, you know, everybody's on that ticket, right? Everybody's on that, and it's becoming the more popular thing to say unpopular things, well, things that used to be unpopular. This whole thing always reminds me of this series called Scandal. I don't know if you've watched it, but there's this scene where this character that definitely like is supposed to mimic Donald Trump, what's his name? Doyle or something like that, right? He gets recorded by Olivia Pope saying that all these right-wing things he was saying, they're just to rile up the people and to, you know, get them to vote for him. He doesn't really care about these people, you know.
That is taken out of context.
It is.
That's right, because I remember what I
because
said.
This is what you said right before.
You don't think I believe any of that racist crap I spew out there in the boonies, do you?
So if I'm
that's what I always think of, especially when it comes to some content creators, where it's like some of them don't even believe genuinely what they're saying, but it's just for the sake of social media, but they don't realize the impact that it actually has on people in real life, because there's somebody out there who's gonna take what you say and actually practice it in real life. You get what I'm saying? So people don't realize the amount of power that they have, especially when it comes to more of the right or conservative things, which really affect real people. Another aspect that we can look at, that is the reason why Gen Zers are more conservative nowadays, is because of the rise of think pieces. Like the one I'm doing now, I guess, yeah. I always thought that think pieces were a powerful tool for cultural criticism. It helped you to think, you know, like think. I don't know why I did that, but it reminded me of like being back in school when we would read a novel and our teacher would be like, but what does the color red represent, you know? And we'd all be like, oh, it means nothing. Like, we didn't want to think further, but that skill is so flippin' important for our daily lives. All that critical analysis, things that we used to do on poetry, very, very important, because it is evident that we did not study them during class, okay? Some of y'all were sleeping while we were learning literature, okay? Why is it important? It's important for you not to be manipulated by the media, for you to be able to dissect information, to understand. I don't know, there's a word for it. Just ask ChatGPT. It's called media literacy. Yeah. That's the thing. You see, all that from primary school, if we had learned that, we wouldn't have so many problems that we have now, right? To critically understand, you know, the ability to navigate and understand digital platforms and online content. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, I digress. So again, think pieces, that's what we're talking about. When they really became evident, especially like after... Yeah, I think after COVID, like during this past few years, like there was a rise of more talking content, especially on TikTok, rather than, you know, just dances and stuff like that. People were like, oh, I miss the old days. Yeah, I guess me too in a way, but also there's a huge impact that all these think pieces people give us, you know, which is a different way to think or digest information and to, you know, really open our eyes in some of the things. But of course, like everything that comes on social media, there's always a bad side to it. So sooner rather than later, think pieces became more synonymous with textualizing trivial things or topics, right? Did that make sense? I feel like that didn't make sense. In as much as a lot of think piece or yappers that I follow on TikTok, like they always make sense. I like them. I like their content. They always, especially when they're like just analyzing like movies and things like that, or just cultural things that are happening in the world. Love it. But then there's also the ones where it's like, you know, it was never that serious. But then not only that, there's also just a rise of just over criticizing, where it's kind of like, a think piece doesn't always have to be like critical. You don't always have to find something negative. You can also, you know, analyze something, talk about it, discuss it, dissect it, and not say anything negative about it. You know, it doesn't always have to be negative. I think that exhaustion happened. Like a lot of us were exhausted for every time when you scroll on your TikTok, there's someone's complaining about something. It's either your favorite show, they're butching on it, like, oh, you know, this happened. Although some things are valid, especially the Friends episode where Monica has braids. Yeah, if I talk about that, somebody might actually send me a death threat, so I'm not going to. So I'll be honest, a lot of people got kind of fatigued, Gen Zers, right? Because we're the ones that are scrolling 24/7 on TikTok or YouTube Shorts. Who watches YouTube Shorts? But yeah, people got really fatigued of just being taught something, you know? So instead of, I don't know, not following those people, people just kind of blocked out the whole thing. Kind of like all think pieces are just like, here we go again.
We need to stop taking these words that apply to like really specific, complicated, complex conversations or like are rooted in theory and just applying them to any old thing on the internet. Because why did somebody say they only watch movies for fun? Like they don't analyze them or put that much thought into it. And somebody said that anti-intellectualism was a plague that is like haunting our people. Like we are the dumbest generation. Anti-intellectualism is a thing and it played a huge role in the overarching community response to COVID. But it doesn't apply here. People are so desperate to seem smarter than everybody or better than everybody that they just toss any old word that they hear on the internet into any conversation. And it needs to stop. Like we need to just go back to gatekeeping language because y'all don't know what you're saying.
It was never that serious. Someone would literally be talking about, you know, colorism, and someone be like, it's not that serious. I'm like, yes, it is. What are you talking about? Yes, it is. And also the discourses, especially on Twitter. I'm not on Twitter, by the way. Discourses just lacked nuance. The discourses just came round and round. There was like no solution, where it became really exhausting. Like, oh, for real though, like here we go again. Because especially with the, you know, African diaspora thing, not African diaspora, but like just the diaspora wars between black people all around the world. Like that, remember when that was happening, like every 2 to 3 business days, I even had to make a video about it. Go check it out. But like things like that, you know, it's like, okay, it's fatiguing us. Je suis fatiguée. So in the end, the conclusion to that little rant, Generation Z is kind of just like pushed back, where it's like, you know what, we just want to see surface level thing, just mindless content. What is it called? Brain rot content, where we don't have to discuss anything deeper, you know, and therefore we are more subtle. No, it's English. I don't speak, this is not my first language, and I'm also learning French, like but like when we, I'll probably put the word there, but like when we kind of like turn off our brain and our, you know, our thinking things, you know, it's more subtle to, that's the word, to just getting information that's gonna put you onto the outright pipeline, kind of like celebrity gossip and things like that. That's the things that are just more fun. We've forgotten that we canceled the Kardashians. Suddenly they're more entertaining now. Candace Owens, I've talked about her. And I said it before, she's worming her way into people. This is not even part of the video, but I just have to say this, okay? The Jason Baldoni and what's her name? Blake Lively, right? Candace Owens is now shifting her content, talking about celebrity fluff, things that don't make you think so much, right? Because you're just being told supposed facts, right? And she's lowering you, and then she's gonna grab you while you're not watching, and suddenly you're gonna be on the alt-right pipeline, supporting things that you never thought you would, because that's how she traps you. She's not gonna, you see how before, like, you know, she was saying crazy things that were so blatant and so like crazy, and then she just switched up her content and started talking about celebrity gossip, and suddenly these people coming up online, actually Candace Owens is right. Actually, I agree with Candace Owens. Like, y'all, be careful.
If you are on Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni talk, enough so that the phrases, Candace Owens had a point about this. I never thought I'd agree with Candace Owens. Candace Owens said this. Not me looking for Candace Owens' TikTok to find out the new scoop. If that stuff has come out of your mouth, I want you to know that you are currently on the alt-right pipeline. It's not that the alt-right pipeline is looking for you. It's not that it's like, you know, 2 blocks down around the corner. No, baby, you are on it. You are cruising. And if it's not you, maybe you have a loved one who's on Justin Baldoni, Blake Lively talk. I am sorry to tell you that your loved one is on the alt-right pipeline. And given the times that we are in, where there's conversations about building concentration camps in Guantanamo Bay, what a sentence. I want you to know that that pipeline is going to move much faster than you've been used to it moving. So if you are someone who was like, I'm not misogynistic, I'm not racist, I'm not all of these things, you will be. You will be. Because that is the pipeline that you are on right now. Please get off of it. Please get off of it. Please get your friends off of it. If you are a creator, you are influencing people to go down an alt-right pipeline. When you reference Candace Owens in your content, you are a danger. And yes, I do think that you should be deplatformed if you, number one, especially the people who acknowledge it and still continue to reference her. Well, I know she's Candace Owens, but a danger to society.
Okay, but basically, yes. So since now, like, wokeness is kind of dead, I just wanted to speak about why does this sound like a new video? The Ouroboros effect. I got that from Loki. Yeah, I am a Marvel nerd. This is my, do you see that? That's Iron Man. It's a little hand thing. Yeah. So the Ouroboros effect, like, you know, the little round snake that's eating itself. That's how I feel like it's happening right now, right? You know how we used to say, oh, the 2000s were crazy when reading those tabloids. How could they say this? Nah. I think that's gonna come. Like, people are saying the most outrageous thing, doing blackface, doing this and that, the crazy racist things. Like, in a few years, we're gonna be like, oh my God, why? Like, you know, round and round. It's gonna, okay. And we also with the things that we supposedly care about or stand for, are also going in reverse. Lizzo is a good example for this, because when she first came on, people put that on her, like, you know, body positivity, yes queen, all that kind of stuff. And then she lost weight, and then it's like, why did you lose weight? You're a traitor, you know. So if she gains weight, aren't y'all, isn't thin in now? And also, body positivity, is it only for certain types of people, or is it for everybody? You know what I'm saying? Because how are you gonna shame her for losing weight? That's also body shaming her, which is against body positivity. You see how it just goes round and round. Like, what are we doing? It makes no sense at all. Anyway, yeah, we're here right now in the place where saying the most logical thing is boring and doesn't get you really anywhere in life, really. You have to, you know, do the unpopular opinion video to get your views up on YouTube. I should probably do that. Yeah, my views have been kind of down lately. But yeah, and I think this is really affecting Gen Z, because we just grew up, you know, in our teen years, like, on the internet. And because the world is so effed up, and realizing that as we're going to the workforce, social media has really been a place to escape. So as movies were a place to escape for the older generation, millennials, sorry, social media was a way for us to just, relax and just like be there and have a brain rot. But because of, again, the think pieces, it became a place of exhaustion where people just want to avoid all that. And also we just sort of learned that all our favorite things are just now being critiqued. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, who wants to watch Sam and Cat? Like, it's sometimes I want to watch some Disney things, for nostalgia, but it's like I can't because it's like everything that we've known is just kind of been, and a lot of people just see that as an attack on culture and things like that, so they just completely blur it out and shut it out, even though some of it is very relevant and very important for us to know. And I guess it's the time then we should create new things, right? So what this means is that being woke is no longer edgy, but like saying things as they are, that's like the new cool thing. And just, I don't know. Yeah, so I think there's just some possibilities in the future or in the next few months. With internet culture, everything can just change the next day. I think within the next few years, we're going to see a lot of apologies again, for the things that they're saying now. Maybe we're going to see people not be able to get jobs for the things that they're doing now. Oh God, I should really audit my account. But anyway, because whenever there's been like some sort of serious talk about where we are going as a society, it just never really sticks. Like it's everything's pretty much like a trend. As much as I hate to say it, like the cancel culture thing that we were on, let's block celebrities. But anyway, tell me what you guys think of this video. Like, do you feel like Gen Z is becoming more conservative? Do you feel like this is just like one of those phases that are just gonna phase out and fizzle out? Or do you think that this is actually gonna have a huge impact in the world? And do you feel that you have more conservative views now because you just feel like everything that you've ever liked or loved is just been criticized and dissected, where it's kind of like, well, I'm just gonna do whatever I want now and just think about me and not really care for anyone else? I feel like this video was all over the place. Was it? Also, let's get some appreciation for my makeup. This is an eye look. I was trying to recreate that and then I failed miserably, so I just kind of changed it into that. So yeah, I did that. If you want a tutorial, go to my TikTok. I have a TikTok. And the wig is linked in the description. So anyway, bye.